I'm Maggie. Hello. You may recognize me from these photos. I used to be a journalist. I was a foreign correspondent for about 15 years. So I traveled to Syria, Zimbabwe, and most countries in between, interviewing
the
folks
elements of a
and
criminal
telling stories. And we've got some people joining us. I'm just going to get Jersey on my team to make sure that everyone's on mute as they join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. So yeah, I have a background in journalism, and I found out that I was getting paid less than the dudes in the newsroom next to me. That kind of annoyed me. And so I built a business to try and solve the problem. So we have an app. We now work with corporate brands all around the world, Salesforce, UBS Bank, Microsoft, people like that, right? So you're in the right place today if you want to earn at least 5 to 30K a year more. I know there's a few people on the call who've been through our course who are actually earning significantly more than that again. So it is possible. We do have people that get 40, 50K pay raises. We've had 3, maybe 4 actually at this point, elusive 6-figure pay increases, which kind of seems a little insane, but it's possible, as you'll see from the framework that we're talking about today, right? So Shelby, if you've got a question, pop it in the chat and I'm going to get to that as soon as I can for you. So, you might be kind of resonating.
Sorry, Maggie.
Yeah, go ahead.
The slide is a bit zoom in. Sorry.
We can't see the slides properly. We can only see like a quarter of the screen at once.
Ooh, that's annoying, isn't it? Okay, let me figure that out while we keep chatting. Okay, let me see if this is going to make things a little better. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. All right, how's this?
No, it's still the same.
Really?
Oh,
oh shoot, hang on. How's that?
You can only see a pink screen at the moment, and now we can only see 2 or 3 words.
Can you see a green screen at the moment?
We can see the words looking, at 2, and at least. The rest of it's
so quirky, huh? Okay, cool. Let me fix that. I've never had this happen before, but that's fine. We're going to figure it out. Here we go. Maybe this will work better. Let's try this one, shall we? Let me know, Shelby and Co, if this works a little better. How's that?
Improving. It's improving.
Ooh, we like
still zoom in, but it's
yes,
that's much better. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Much
Thank you.
better. Okay, cool. That's looking better. Love
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. And thanks for identifying that. We've never had that happen before. Isn't that so weird? Okay. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Sorry, now I've lost it again. This is annoying. Okay, here we go. All right, cool. So this is what we're talking about today. Let me move this out of the way so we're not going to see everyone that's joining in the call. Let me move all these really weird Zoom things. Also, what did we even do before Zoom? Doesn't that just feel like ages away? So this is going to resonate with you if you're overdue for a pay increase, you're wanting to really love your job and feel like you're valued at work. And also you want to be in a position where you can take a holiday, where you can invest, where you can help your mum out, where you can shout dinner for your mates, right? And not freak out about it from a monetary perspective. Because the reality is, I know that everyone that's here today, like you're all really, really good at your job, if not exceptional at your job. And so you deserve to be compensated for that. I want to make sure that that's the case for you. And the framework that I'm going to talk you through about the clear, competent, confident is going to work even if you're in a super male dominated culture, even if it's super toxic in the worst place, in the workplace where you are right now. Because maybe you're like me and maybe you found out inadvertently that you're getting paid less than the dudes, right? All right, let's skip over this. Even if your confidence is high, you kind of already know this. If you're already crushing it with your pay reviews, you've probably got better things to do with your time. Grab out a pen and paper, take notes, take photos, whatever you want. Like this is here for you. I want to support you to kind of, take the notes and record this as best as it suits you. So I love doing what I do because I get emails from people who tell me they got a 14% pay increase and a 14% bonus. I had a message from someone in Asia yesterday who got a 22% increase. So like, I'm here for it. I love to hear these stories. And that's kind of why I do the work that I do. That's why I'm not in journalism anymore. And the reason this matters, the reason you should take, 30 or 40 minutes of your day to day to think about this is because we spend so much time at work, right? Like money really matters. Even if you don't want a Porsche, even if you don't want a McMansion, and even if you think, no, I'm altruistic, I want to do good things in the world, I don't care about money, it still matters. I don't necessarily like it, but it is what it is, right? It makes the world go around for better or worse. And so if you take a look at this graph, right? If you get a $5,000 increase, so this is you, the dark green line is you now, but if you were to get a 5K increase, like let's say in the next 6 months, that like lighter green line becomes you, right? So you can see how with compound interest and all those kind of things, like the cumulative impact of even a small $5,000 increase. And honestly, for me, if someone gets 5K, I'm like, that's good. I'm happy for you, but like, it's not amazing. I don't get excited about that. I'm happy for them, but I want you all to get more than that. But even with that small increase, you can see the huge impact that it makes, right? So yeah, if you compound it over years and years and years, we're talking about 1.3 million between now and 40 years time, just because of that one 5K increase. So it's no joke. Those of you who are into compounding interest will know what I'm talking about. And those of you who are not, don't worry, take my word for it. I've crunched the numbers, it matters. And I'm happy that you're here. So I want you to just like take a moment. We're not going to dwell on this, but I just want you to like take like 30 seconds, which I just want you to like close your eyes and genuinely think about, okay, if I got 5K extra this year, 10K extra this year, like what would that do for your life? Would it mean that you just like, I don't know, like took your best mate on holiday with you? Would it mean that you, like one of the things that I want to do this year is get my mum a cleaner, for example, just that comes to her house. Like that would bring me joy to be able to do that for her, for example. Would it mean that you would like, I don't know, buy your kids something special for Christmas or whatever the case may be, whatever holiday you celebrate in your family? Just have a think about like, what would a little bump mean? And if 5K doesn't mean a lot to you, think about what would a 50K bump mean? What would a $27,000 increase mean for you? You know, think about a number for you that is significant and think about how it would impact your life. And I want you to come back to that when you're sort of annoyed or frustrated with me, because I'm asking you to push yourself out of your comfort zone and have some conversations, which we're going to get to in a minute. So yeah, we're here to make it rain, right? And the thing is, all of you are doing pretty well, right? Like you're doing pretty well. Your careers are kind of like doing really well, like pretty good, not a bad thing, right? But the inaction of doing nothing, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, she didn't ask for a pay increase for 6 years. If you extrapolate that out in terms of the increase in inflation over that 6 years, like that is a serious challenge for her to be able to recoup that money back. Because if you haven't asked for a pay raise for 6 years, it's really hard to get that money back. So I want all of you to be asking at least once a year, and to be working towards a figure that's bigger than what you're on now. And maybe that's even bigger than what you could have imagined, because the cost of inaction is significant too, right? Which is a big part of why we built the app. And a big part of what we're doing at Pep Talk Her. And I didn't take action either. Like back when I was a journo, I was too scared to have that conversation about money because I felt awkward. I didn't like talking about money. I thought my boss would hate me, you know, all those kinds of things. And it was when I got the courage and when I had a framework that I could follow to have conversations about money, everything changed. Because all of a sudden I wasn't coming from a place of kind of fear and awkwardness. I was just coming from a place of a reframe, right? And that one simple reframe in your head of moving it away from stress about negotiation and almost into a place of anti-negotiation, right? Like I actually want you to get rid of the concept of negotiation and just think about the fact that you're having a conversation, because there's no fear about having a conversation. I know that all of you know how to do that. You do that every day in your jobs to some extent. And so if that's what we're thinking about when it comes to your salary, all of a sudden, a lot of that fear and anxiety strips away, right? And I know it doesn't seem like rocket science, but it can make a really big difference. You know, I used to get overlooked for pay increases and promotions, even though I was doing all the right things, getting all the awards, but like I had missed something along the way. And I could kind of see this happening. Other people around me were crushing it. And I was like, but I'm really good, if not better than you. Like, how come I'm not getting these opportunities? I was getting paid less as well, which obviously sucks. You know, the pay gap is real. You know, and when I actually raised the conversation, when I talked about it, I was told to quit or take them to court if I didn't like it, right? And I just kind of thought, like, really the expectation of me was to kind of sit back and do nothing. That's what they expected me to do. And they wanted me to sort of lean into this idea that I was lucky to have a job in journalism. Like I was lucky to be there. And if I didn't take the job, someone else would pick it up and run with it. And maybe you can relate to that. Maybe some of you have been told by your bosses, well, we've sent you to Europe. That's pretty cool. Well, you're managing a team now and you wouldn't get that experience anywhere else. So let me know with an emoji in the chat if this is relatable to you, if you've had some of these experiences as well. If you've ever felt like you have to kind of stick to your instinct of playing nice or being the people pleaser, and you think that that's the only option, right, in terms of the workplace. Let me know in the chat with an emoji if this is making sense to you. Because, you know, like feeling stuck in your career is real. You know, it's kind of this weird thing where we have to make a decision as a teenager as to what we want to do with the rest of our life. And then we get so busy doing that work that we forget to stop, take stock, and reflect on like, is this what I really want? Is this direction I'm being pushed in where I want to go? Is the compensation I'm being offered actually reasonable for what I'm doing and the value that I'm adding? Could it be better somewhere else? You know, and sometimes you feel like it is the best it's going to be here. Sometimes you might have Stockholm syndrome if you've been there for a while. And you might have noticed that colleagues around you, friends around you have kind of figured out what that missing piece is, right? In terms of your career trajectory, in terms of like playing the game of like strategizing your career. Because the reality is that like more senior you get, as a lot of you are, it does become more strategic, right? And it is more and more like a game the more and more you move up the ladder. Right. So I took a long time to figure this out, and I'm excited to kind of help you figure out what that missing piece was, because I didn't figure this out, I would say, until I was like in my early 30s. And the missing piece that I want you to walk away with today, if nothing else, is really understanding the human factor that comes into the negotiations, right? Because you think if I'm working hard, they're going to see that and they're going to compensate me for that. Well, I did all the things they told me to do, so I'm just going to sit back and wait for them to come to me with a silver platter, the promotion and the opportunity and the equity or commission that I deserve. And the reality is, without the human factor, without understanding that piece of the puzzle strategically, it's not going to happen, right? And so for me, when I figured that out, everything changed. You know, all of a sudden I was getting paid more than I ever thought possible, like tripled my salary in 3 years, which is kind of wild to think about, but was, you know, nice at the time. And I think just thinking about like other students as well who've had successes following this framework and who have figured out that missing piece, getting that extra money in pay, getting those percentage increases, and getting things like, you know, negotiating outside of just like the dollars and cents, and thinking about sign-on bonuses and like equity and like non-monetary benefits as well. That's the other thing that I want you to kind of start thinking about, is like, what else? And we'll talk about this later, but, you know, strategizing to kind of anticipate any roadblocks or challenges that might come up in your pay conversations with your boss, right? Just kind of identifying what are their objections going to be before those objections even pop up, right? So let's take a look at this, because this is going to be helpful. Let me know in the chat if you've got any questions as well. All right, so just going to bring this up again. It's gone. My Zoom's gone haywire again. Isn't that fun? So to the point I was just mentioning earlier about like strategizing. So when you think about like, what does the roadmap look like? There's this kind of like expectation that you kind of go to school and then you do this and then you do this, and it's kind of like a linear path. But the reality is that that's not what it is anymore, right? Like careers look different these days. Career roadmaps are different now. And you've got to sort of have all of the pieces of the puzzle so that you can get to where you want to go, right? So you've got to have the clarity of what you're looking for, of truly where you want to go. You've got to have the confidence, the external piece, to understand that you are worth it, because that will emanate to other folks believing that as well. And then you've got to have that human factor, right? And be really clear on what is the comp that you're looking for and how are you going to navigate to get there? Because it's not just a case of asking for it. You've got to actually put the meat on the bone and have the data to prove why you are worth it, and make it a really no-brainer for them to say yes to you. Right. And as you can see from this, you know, this map that we've kind of put together to kind of give you an example, there's roadblocks along the way. There's accidents. You might get fired. You might be made redundant. There could be an economic recession, inflation, all those kinds of things along the way. So how are you going to navigate that? Because you can't control the economy. You can't control inflation. You can't control whether your massive, you know, company is going to do really unexpected layoffs. We can't control that. None of us can. Doesn't matter if you work at the fanciest company or the smallest startup. The only thing that you can control is your role in all of this, right? And so that's when we talk about the clarity piece, the confidence, and the comp. Excuse me. So you want to understand your personal piece and your zone of genius that's going to set you apart. You want to be really clear on what are those external factors, right? And what is else coming into play, and how can you kind of get ahead of the curve of when those objections come up. And then you want to be really clear on the human factor as well, about what's going to set you apart from other people too. And that way, if you're clear on those 3 separate pieces of the puzzle, it doesn't really matter what happens. It doesn't matter if we go into a recession. It doesn't matter if there's layoffs, because you're always going to be set up for success, right? And that's what I want for you too. And, you know, there's a concept called the backlash effect that we know impacts women, right? Where as and when we ask for things, we're seen as aggressive. Perhaps some of you in the chat might want to let me know if that's ever happened to you, or you might be seen as bitchy, or whatever the case may be. Right? So how do you engage in these conversations so that you get what you want and you clearly articulate what you want, and you still maintain your political power, right? Because you don't want to lose any of that office political power that you've worked so hard to get over the number of years that you've been within the business, right? So you've got to get over this fact that, like, if you ask, they're going to think you're a bitch. As I was saying, that client of mine who didn't ask for 6 years, she didn't ask because she didn't want to seem high maintenance. And the fact is, because she didn't ask, that's for sure cost her 6 figures, if not more, over the course of her career, because she was sliding backwards for those 6 years and she also wasn't moving forward, right? So one of the things is you've got to sort of just like have that really hard look at yourself and be like, well, I can prepare and I can anticipate how I can conduct this conversation in the best way possible so that I'm perceived, you know, in the way that I know that I want to be perceived. And I have to kind of like jump over those issues that I have. I've got to work through them in my head. And one of the things we talk a lot about in the Career Level Up program is like, how can you actually prepare and have some of those practice conversations ahead of time so that when you're in that actual space, you know, it's not the first time you've said those numbers out loud. It's not the first time that you're trying to speak these numbers into existence, right? Because you've already practiced that in a safe space ahead of time. And, it, you know, I know that most of you know this anyway, like inflation is like such a killer. If you're not getting a raise every year, at least you're going backwards, right? And that can be as small as 2 or 3%, like that's fine. At least you'll be keeping up then, but you've got to get at least that. Otherwise, per this other slide, you're going backwards, right? In terms of the real money of what you're earning. And the other thing I hear a lot of people say, like, oh, I can't ask for more. Like there's times are tough. There's always more money. And you've probably seen this happen when maybe some of your colleagues threaten to leave and all of a sudden money gets pulled out of a hat. We're coming up to holiday season. We're going to see bosses throwing a lot of cash around on things that, you know, may or may not be helpful. So it seems to be that there's money when they want to find it, but perhaps it's not there when you're asking. And so there's a couple of things that we can unpack there as well. But that's the reality, you know, having a plan B and having leverage as to what would happen if you decided to walk away is also really valuable as well, which we'll talk about more in a second. But just want to take stock. What is one word that kind of sums up how you're feeling about work right now? I know someone earlier put the word merger into the chat. A couple of people are a bit upset about some of their experiences. Yeah, Meenakshi's saying, and that's like, what? Like, could you imagine John in finance being called too ambitious? And to Michelle's point, women are bitches, men are just tough. And here's the other thing, we also can't control that. So that's a product of unconscious bias, which is candidly going to take generations to frankly breed out. You know, a lot of the times these comments and the backlash effect, it's not necessarily conscious and like malicious, but it still impacts us in a negative way. And if we know that's what's going on, those are the rules of the game, even if we don't like it, but we can then choose to engage within those rules. And that's the biggest takeaway I want you to have from today is like, there are these unwritten rules that are happening around you in the workplace. They suck, like I'm there with you, but it's also like, you know, I just found myself when this happened to me in the workplace, I was just like spiraling. I was in such a negative headspace because I was so angry. I was angry and I was mad and I wanted to get even and I couldn't figure it out. And so for me, the best way to get even was to help all of you get even, you know, but you've got to also get to that place where you can be angry and you can have that anger and you can be like, that's so unfair, that's so wrong, etc. And then you at some point have to make a decision. What am I going to do about that? And that might mean looking for another job. It might mean quitting. It might mean having this conversation. Maybe you love your job and it might mean getting a side hustle, right? Or figuring out what that looks like for you. But taking action of some description is really important. And I love this from Sally. They asked for a discount on a booking fee and they waived the $100 fee. I love that. Sally, I'll give you an example. I had some taxes that were due here in America and I got charged a late fee because I didn't pay them on time. And I sent them an email and they waived the late fee of a couple $100. So pretty stoked with that. Okay, wow. So in terms of the words that people are using to describe where they are right now, this word's a great one, stagnant. Yeah, that sums up a lot, doesn't it? Toxic, disillusioned, annoyed, disappointed. Yeah, and it's kind of like slightly disappointed, like your job's pretty good, but it's like, it can be amazing. And I know it's kind of hard to see that when you're in the trenches. And sometimes you're not always surrounded by people who think that more is possible. And that's what I love. Well, one of the things that I love about the Pep Talker community is that like everyone who is in our programs and in our mastermind and our courses, it's like everyone is looking for something more. and believes that it's possible. They don't necessarily know how to get there, but they know that it's possible. And even just being around that energy, and there's a couple of people who've been through the course, they might want to give you their thoughts in the chat too, but like being around that energy of possibility can actually be pretty life-changing too. Because I've been in situations where I've had friendship groups who are awesome and I love them, but they weren't interested in moving their careers. And so I felt a little bit lonely. So sometimes when you've got that community around you, all of a sudden you feel like there's a lot more that's possible for you. The belief that it's possible. Yeah. And using the anger that you've had in the workplace, to trying to channel it to something good, you may as well hopefully get some more dollars and cents out of it anyway. Okay. So as I was saying, it's those missing pieces that like none of this is rocket science, right? But it is really, really powerful. And if you can figure out what these missing pieces are for you and how to deploy them, right, into the market, that's going to be pretty amazing for you, right? Because the thing is as well, like obviously I'm sure a lot of you have Googled some of this stuff and maybe you follow different career blogs or negotiating blogs, and it's all like pretty good. And it's different at every company, right? Maybe you're in the pharmaceutical industry, maybe you're in tech, maybe you're in marketing, and you're like, yeah, but we just went through a merger, so I can't really apply that generic piece of advice because it's not relevant for me. Or my boss is this particularly unusual personality. I have to take that into account when I have these conversations. And that's when I talk about that human piece. You really do have to take into account the personalities as well, because they're so bespoke. And if you say one word here and one word there, it might be a very different outcome. For example, I had a boss and you had to make him think that things were his idea. Otherwise, he would just stonewall you and you'd be pushed out. But if you could make him think it was your idea, like kind of anything was possible. And I'm sure you all know a little bit about the quirks of your bosses and colleagues as well. And that's what's really important. And I think that's one of the things that sets Pep Talk apart, is that like we help you navigate that, because the advice I give to Megsy is different to what I'm going to give to like Cody, for example, because it needs to be different. And if you put a foot wrong, you can actually blow it up inadvertently as well, right? Okay, so the personal piece, the 3 steps that we're going to sort of workshop live together now, is that first piece of like, what do you really want? Like truly, like blue sky thinking, anything's possible, putting money to one side, putting geography to one side, family obligations. What would you love to be doing? So back when I was a journalist, I'll give you an example. I just had this pipe dream of like, imagine if I didn't have to live sleeping with my cell phone under my pillow, because I was always, you wake up, you've got to get your grab bag and get on this plane or go there, which was fun for a while, and then it was exhausting. Maybe you're feeling like there's too much travel in your job. Maybe you're like, I'd really love to be in a creative job, but is that even possible? Because I've been in science for so long. So just think about like what you would really, really love, because you've got to get clear on that. Because if you don't have that clarity, someone else is going to push you in a direction, right, where you serve their needs, whether it's a family member or whether it's a boss. You get to decide, and you should and can have agency over your career, right? So thinking about that is really important, and trying to push that fear to one side, which I know is easier said than done. But it's really valuable. And here's some examples. Like we had someone in the program who was in finance and she really wanted to work in the media industry, right? But her fear was around taking a pay cut because she was in finance. We navigated that. She took a little bit of a cut, not as big as she was expecting, which is cool. One of our other students was really looking for recognition. She just wanted that affirmation at work. But she thought that it wasn't possible because she'd just come back from maternity leave. So she was like, I just have to suck up this bad behavior because I've just taken a career break to care for my child. And then, obviously a lot of you probably can relate to this, toxic bosses. So many people would love to escape a toxic boss, but they think that they can't because they're worried about what would happen to if they got sacked or if they lost their benefits, And one of the things that we help you do is figure out, well, actually, there's transferable skills there that can be used to position you to get closer to that dream situation. So here's an example of someone who was working in retail and ended up in tech as a product manager, which is kind of cool. So this is a screenshot of something she shared in our Slack channel, which everyone in the community is a part of. Okay, so that's that first thing, is like dreaming big and like just like being honest with yourself about what you would love to do. That's the first piece. Then the second piece is understanding your power, because often we think employers have all the power. And here's the thing, employers can't do anything without people or robots, or maybe it's AI these days. But anyway, for the purposes of today's conversation, companies need people, and that means they need you. And if you're here today and you haven't been sacked or fired, that probably means you're pretty good at your job. And that means you have power, because something that you're doing on a day-to-day basis is adding value, is making money, is making someone's life easier, right? And that means you have leverage. And it doesn't mean that you have to like hold it over someone's head and threaten them. But I do want you to understand that you do have power and leverage, even if perhaps you haven't thought about it like that before. There's a lot of variables at play, obviously, but there are things that you can do as well to kind of leverage that power to your advantage too. So, you know, to that point as well, one of the reasons why it's always hard when people say, how do I figure out like what that number is and how much leverage do I have? How much power do I have? It's kind of hard to know because you can go to glassdoor.com, you can go to salary.com, and you should, and they're great places to start. And sometimes they will tell you the salary range is $50,000 to $300,000, which is not super useful. And that's where like having that specific community and like really deep dive advice is really helpful. And just kind of flipping it from a negotiation towards this idea of anti-negotiation and more of a conversation, super helpful because it'll shift your mindset and your attitude, which means that everything shifts, right? Because when you understand that you have power and leverage, it means that your attitude is very different when you're negotiating, because instead of coming from a place of like, please, could I have some more, and more of a desperation energy, it really changes, which I know seems like, oh, would that even change that much? But it actually does, right? It actually does shift things quite significantly in terms of how people perceive you, and the results that you can get as well, right? So the third thing that you want to think about too, when you're thinking about like, what are those extra pieces that can kind of make or break things? The third piece that I don't want you to forget about is the human piece, human factor, right? Let me bring this up again. Why is this going so funky? Sorry. All right, cool. So the third thing is that human factor that you want to take into account, right? So your dream situation, we want you to think about, we want you to understand that you've got power and leverage. And then I want you to think about the human factor that is at play in your negotiation, because your negotiation is different from Jason's, which is different from Meenakshi's, which is different from Susanna's, right? It's all different and it's dependent only on the people, really. The external factors like the economy, the industry, you kind of know that, and you can navigate that to an extent, but it's the human factor that you really need to dive into so that you can get the best result that you need, right? And the reason that it matters is because what's at play here is relationships. And at the level that you're all, you know, mid to senior in your career already and going places even further, it matters. You've got to take into account egos, attitudes towards money, you know, the influence that they have within the business. Are they a power broker? Are they on the way out? What's their personal circumstance? So we don't want to go in and negotiate for your salary if you know that your boss's kid has had surgery that morning. So it's kind of just like this concept of like taking the blinkers off a little and just getting a little clearer of what are the other things going on behind the scenes that maybe I can't see, but I'm going to use my emotional intelligence as well as my IQ to kind of read between the lines so that I can set myself up for the best case scenario, right? And so, yeah, so this is an example that doesn't, yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah, so lots of people getting pay raises, that's great. So it's not about like demanding. When we talk about understanding your leverage and understanding the human factors at play, it's not about manipulating or demanding or anything like that, like putting your fist on the table. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is using to your advantage the fact that you can read the tea leaves and that you can kind of see around the corner, right? I know that instinctively a lot of you know how to do that. And so if that's the case, we want to make sure that we're using that to our advantage, right? That we're being really clear of like, here's the roadmap of what I'm looking for. And this is the reasons and the data that I have to kind of back up that argument and that reasoning that I have for wanting to earn more money and for wanting to get those new opportunities. So that's one of the things that we talk a lot about in the Career Level Up is like having data, like doing the work, because if you want to get a pay raise that's normal, like you probably don't need to do this course. It's fine. If your company gives pretty good raises, that's fine. But if you're looking for something that's like really good, pretty good, extraordinary, that's where I say you actually have to invest some of your time and energy to do that preparation, right? And you don't really want to be doing it the day before. Preferably, you want to be thinking about this 3 to 6 months in advance so that you can give yourself the best possible runway to get the best outcome. You know, so just being realistic about that. Like if you want an average result, you should do average steps. But if you're looking for an extraordinary result, you want to go that extra mile, right? You really want to take that extra step so that you have the best chance of getting what you're looking for. Sorry, I'm going too fast, Michelle. I'm too excited, too much to talk about. But I can share these with you afterwards, Michelle, as well. If you want to pop your email in the chat, and I'll send them to you afterwards as well, so you can take a look. So this is a great question about a recovering people pleaser, very relatable. Like, maybe give me a thumbs up in the chat if you are also a people pleaser. I'm going to put the first thumbs up in. How do you get clear on knowing what you want? Oh, that's a really hard question. And I kind of can't do that work for you. But what I can do, and what we do in the program, is I give you a framework. So one of the things that we go through, I think it's in the second week of the program, is we actually go through what are your values? What do they look like? And I know that's kind of like, oh, values, but it's a hard exercise, but it is actually important. So what do those values look like? Some people value status. Some people value money. I value geographic freedom. So even if someone said, I'm going to pay you $3 million, if I had to come in an office 5 days a week, I'd probably say no, honestly, because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's not aligned with my values for me, but it might be for you, right? So I think part of it is giving yourself the space. And even just having this, 45 minutes together today is giving you the space for your brain to start to think about it, because we've all been conditioned to kind of sit in these boxes, and those boxes serve us for a while. Like, I was a journo for 15 years. It was great. I loved it. And then just like that box doesn't really work for me anymore. It was a good box. It just wasn't an amazing box. And maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you're like, this is a good box, but I want like a glorious box. I want an exceptional box. And you're allowed to want that. Right. And so there's a heap of steps that will take you through to kind of get you out of that. But the first thing you can do, honestly, is just like maybe like putting your phone away and going for a walk and like just looking around and just thinking, like, what do I want? If I didn't have this partner, if I didn't have these kids, if I didn't have these obligations for caring for parents, whatever, if I hadn't bought the mortgage, what would I do? What could that look like? And you might think about it and it might not be possible, but it might be possible in 5 years. Or it might be possible in 7 years, or it might be possible in 3 months if you're really honest about it, right? And so one of the things that we're going to do in the program is like kind of challenge you to be like, okay, well, how badly do you want it? And what other options are there to get there? You couldn't get all of it, but could you get like 50% over here? Or could we get, you know what I mean? Like, we think a bit more creatively about that as well. But yeah, can relate to the people pleasing element too. Hi, Louise. Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm so glad. Louise has had an amazing career, so you should definitely hit her up for advice on what she's done as well. Lots of people pleasers in here, yeah. And yeah, so that's the thing, like geographic freedom is important. Some people want to be able to work flexibly because they've got children, or they want to learn the piano, or they want to go surfing, whatever. Those things are possible. And post-COVID, honestly, there's never been a better time to think about what you actually want. If you want to work from Puerto Rico or Bali or like, I don't know, the Alps, there's 100% a job that you can find that will do that. It might look a little different, but that's kind of exciting to me. And yeah, the other question of like, how badly do I want that? Like, I think I want that, but am I actually willing to give something up? You know what I mean? All right, cool. So then I want to talk to you about like the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Let me just bring up these slides for you again. So we've kind of talked about those 3 steps of like getting clarity on the personal piece, having the confidence to understand the external piece and the fact that you're able to navigate that in terms of your conversations, and then taking into account the human factor when you're looking towards that specific compensation, right? So, one of the things that I want to share with you, we've got heaps of free resources. Some of you might already be using the app, and I'm hoping that the 5-day challenge is already helping, kick into gear some of these different ways of thinking about things and owning your value. But the other thing that I wanted to kind of offer to talk to everyone about today is, if you do want extra help and if you feel like I'm doing well, but I just want to kind of get there quicker, or I do want like a community of cheerleaders to go there with me, I want to invite you to hang around for a little longer if you want, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the Career Level Up program, which I can see we've got Louise. I mean, actually, I didn't know they were coming today, but they're on the call too. They've actually been through the program, and there might be some other people too. I'm not sure. So you can also send them a DM if you want to ask them their genuine advice about the course, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. I think it's good, but don't take my word for it. You can if you want, but you should talk to the others too. So what we run twice a year, and I'm actually only running it once this year. It's called the Career Level Up program. It's 8 weeks. So it will take us into the second week of January. Obviously, we'll be breaking for the key holidays. But basically, it's just like a boot camp, more or less. It's like a community. We come together every 2 weeks for 8 weeks, and we support you to get clear on those 3 things. What does that dream situation look like? realistically, what could that look like short term? And then we can think about planning out that longer term idea as well. Will help you navigate and mitigate some of those external factors, and then also taking into account the specific human factors that you're dealing with in your particular industry and your job and your scenario, right? Like because sometimes people have had toxic bosses, which is obviously awful. And sometimes that can be a blessing in disguise because folks are able to leverage that and understand the power that that gives them in terms of negotiating, right? So sometimes it's just also one of the things we'll do is help you reframe some of the challenges you've had in your career to see how actually that could be a blessing for where you want to go and how can we leverage it in that way. So yeah. So I can talk you through the modules and kind of what we talk about, and the fact that we have a Black Friday deal, which we've actually never done that. So the program's typically $2,000, and for everyone on the call today, it's $1,000. It's actually less than that. I think it's like $9. Excuse me. I think it's like $997. I'll put the info. We've never sold it for this amount of money, but anyway, the link was broken, and that's the price it is. It was supposed to be $1,500, but it's $1,000 for you because the link's broken, and so that's what it is. So for everyone on this call, before Kim on my team wakes up and fixes the link, it's $997, and we start in 10 days from now, and we run through 8 modules. The first module that we talk about in the program is on imposter syndrome, which some of you may be able to relate to, and so we talk about increasing your confidence and identifying what those tangible values are, as we talked about earlier, and how you can kind of overcome that in the long run. And we talk a lot in the program about neuroplasticity. So really what we're doing, yes, we're getting you paid more money. Yes, we're setting you up for success in terms of a promotion. But what we're actually doing behind the scenes is rewiring your brain for the better, because our brains are hardwired for negativity. So the program is all geared to shift your mindset to be more positive so that you're able to navigate any of those challenges that come up along the way. Right. So we talk entirely a whole module about fulfillment and how to like align what you really want with good money. One of our students, she's a consultant at one of the big 4. I won't say which one. And she really wanted to work in not-for-profit, but she thought she was going to have to make a massive pay cut. And I explained to her that I have clients in the not-for-profit space, and I cannot even tell you how much money they're making. I will tell you, some of them are earning $250,000, some of them are earning up to $700,000, and they're working in the not-for-profit space, and they're not the CEOs. So make no mistake, there is good money to be made in not-for-profits. You just have to understand how do you navigate towards the ones that do have money, because obviously some of them do not. So just like trying to figure out what that alignment could look like for you. Obviously, we do an entire module on being paid what you deserve, creating an argument for your salary and how you will kind of, retrofit the data around that to kind of back that up. There's a heap of templates that we give you and scripts so you can copy and paste them in terms of having those conversations with your bosses so that you both get what you want. To set yourself up for those raises. We talk a lot about your network as well. So plotting out who is in your network now, who could be in your network, who can we bring into your network, and strategically thinking, well, if I really want to work from Bali and I want to be earning, I don't know, $300,000 in Bali, what do I have to do over the next 5 years? Who has to be in my network so that I can learn from them and have their help and support and leverage to get where I want to go eventually? You know what I mean? Or if I really want to become a VP in a tech industry, what do I need to do? What conferences do I have to go to? What people do I need to build relationships with? Okay, cool. So there's a heap of bonuses which we give you, which I can talk to you about. Like, that's great. There's heaps of, yeah, I can send that. This is all good and stuff like that. But there you go. Okay, cool. So that's and then, yeah, we have a refund. So if you hate it, we hope you won't, but if you hate it in the first week, just let us know and we'll send you your money back. We run these programs similar to this career level. It's a little different, but we run these programs for big companies too. So that's just to let you know that like, it is based on an academic framework. It's based on facts and figures on the back end. One of our clients, corporate clients that we worked with, they had an attrition rate, so a turnover rate of 11%. And then the people that went through our program were only leaving at a rate of 4%. So we've kind of got those metrics longitudinally as well that kind of prove that the framework that we have really makes a big difference. So say the program's on sale today for you because we mucked up the link for $1,000. So what I would be expecting is that you would be getting at least a 4 to 5x return, which is like earning an extra 4 or 5K, hopefully. I would expect it to be a lot more than that. And I've looked at your LinkedIn, so I know that where all of you are sitting. Like, I would expect a 7 to 10 return at least is not crazy at all. But I like to level set expectations. You know, one of our students got a 240. It was 113% X return. That's not normal, but that's possible too. But minimum, we would expecting you to sort of 4 to 5X your money, which is cool. We've got heaps of testimonials, $30,000 extra, super, you know, that's all great. $30,000 increase on my salary. That's cool. That's cool. Anyway, I can keep talking about this, but like basically lots of people think it's really great. And we think it is too. We've been running it now for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. So we've had a couple of hundred people go through the program. There's 60,000 people using the app and the resources, but like a few hundred people graduated specifically from the program, which is 8 weeks. And then the other thing we have for people that have graduated from the program or in the community is a mastermind. So people who love the course and want to stay involved and want to keep the momentum going, we have a mastermind that you're welcome to join as well. That we meet twice a month. And I think it's like $197 a month, that one. So, you know, maybe you're already good where you're already at with your career, but you're just looking for that community and that connection with other women specifically, who are focusing on their career and also their finances. Because, you know, if I'm getting you an extra 10, 20, 30K in cash, I then get really excited about how can we help you invest that. Or like one of our students put in a pool, which was kind of cool, but like also people are like angel investing, or they're like getting set up for their retirement so they can retire at 52, you know, so kind of have those extra years of sort of living their best life rather than waiting till they're 65. So there's a lot of different ways that we think about it, but so time commitment, that's a really good question, Shelby. I should have answered that. So this is good feedback. So it's an hour every 2 weeks, basically. So that's for the live call. And then we have a Slack channel, so you can go back and forth in the Slack. If you don't make the call, it's totally fine. It's on a portal. So you get access to all the recordings. There's all sorts of, I have videos for all the modules. There's like articles, there's like calculators, scripts, templates you can use for emails, for LinkedIn reach outs. We have like a network map that you can fill in. If you want to be really serious and like double down on this, I would say if you have like an hour a week, that's pretty good. If you have more, that's great too. But like if you're doing an hour for the call and then an hour on the off week of kind of like implementing some of the stuff that we talk about, that would be really good. But there are also people that do the course for one specific module. They're like, I just want the scripts. And then they're like, and I'm done. You know, like one of our students moved to Bermuda for a massive promotion. And she was like, I just need that script. I just need to get the salary. And she was like, that's done. I'm not going to do the rest of it. I just wanted to get that achievement. And she did. And that was all she needed. So that was a win for her. Cool. Yes, Samantha, you're not alone with imposter syndrome. Men and women, by the way, admit to suffering from imposter syndrome. So does Michelle Obama. So Tom Hanks, Maya Angelou, we're in very good company there. So yeah, does anyone have any questions? Like, feel free to jump off of mute or shoot the questions through in the chat as well. But you know, really, you know, I just want you to be making more money because that's what excites me in the world. Because I'll tell you one actually story. This happened 2 cohorts ago. There's a student, she joined the program. She really couldn't afford it. And she was asking me a lot of questions. And I said to her, I was like, I would never want anyone to like be stressed about money to do our program. Like if you can afford it and you like do it. And if you can't, that's fine. Please use the resources and we have scholarships and whatever. Anyway, she was like, no, I want to do it. I need to take this step for myself. And I was like, okay, we talked about it. She wanted to do it. Great. She joined the program. She eventually revealed to us in the course, she was actually in a domestic violence relationship. And she was living in a remote part of the country and she couldn't afford to leave. I think she was earning maybe $60,000 at the time. And her goal was $100,000. Anyway, maybe 3 months after the course ended, she sent me an email. I actually was like crying when I got the email. She got a job in government. It was like $103,000, which is amazing. But then the amazing thing was she was able to afford to leave that marriage. She moved to the city, so she didn't feel as isolated. And now she's like kicking all sorts of goals. She just got nominated for these awards, like a newcomer to the industry awards. And so that's why I get really excited about this, because money gives us choice to make better decisions for ourselves and our families, choice to support other people, choice to have more fun, you know, choice to retire early, choice to start angel investing in maybe women businesses or whatever. I do a lot of that sort of stuff too. If anyone's interested, always feel free to ask me questions about angel investing. But yeah, that's just one story that I wanted to share. Good question from Andrea. So this price is literally going to be, it's typically like while we're on the call. Basically it's when Kim fixes the website because she mucked it up. So hang on, what time is it? So she'll probably be at work in 3 hours. She's based in Asia, so she'll be up in about 3 hours. So I don't know, why don't we say we can say like midnight Eastern, so it's like almost 6 p.m. here, so we can say like midnight Eastern. We'll honor, I'll make sure that they change it so we can honor the price until midnight Eastern, and then it'll go up to, I think it'll go up to, I don't know if it goes to 1,500 and then to 2,000. I can't remember. Full price is 1,997. I mean, actually, I don't know what you paid, so I hope I'm not offending you. I can't remember what you paid. But anyway, that's the full price is 1,990. It's like $2,000 basically. So yeah, it's kind of half price, so that's good. But it will stay on sale. It probably will stay on sale until Black Friday, which will be 1,500. So like that's pretty good too. It's definitely less than the full rack rate of $2,000. But I don't remember the last time we did it at 997. Maybe for like the early bonus, the very first time we launched it 4.5 years ago. Good question. Yes, so we have a Slack channel. I can actually open that for you now. And yeah, it's still going. Like after you join, you can stay in the Slack channel. Let me show you. I'll just bring it up for you now because it's kind of fun. So yeah, this is one of our students got a job, so we sent her flowers. We're happy for her. She moved countries and got a new job. So yeah, there's all sorts of different channels and like weekly wins. Oh, hang on, they haven't populated, but yeah, there's all sorts of like different things going. This is an event we had in London. What about this? Is I've shared my photo of my kid at Halloween. Very cute. Anyway, so yeah, we do have the Slack. How many people are in the Slack? I don't know how to check how many members we have. We don't have we have a Facebook group for the challenge. We don't have a Facebook group for the Career Level Up. We mainly use Slack or email. And then sometimes cohorts start their own WhatsApp chats too, separately, if anyone's a WhatsApp fiend. I'm a bit obsessed with WhatsApp. So that's the other option as well. How long is this offer valid for? So yeah, I think yeah, so I think we'll basically do midnight EST, Agni. I think that's what we'll that's what we're going to change it to. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point actually. So you can get your company to pay for it. So we have like let me see if I can find it. I'll email it to you all afterwards. We have like a company friendly link, so it doesn't say, it's less focused on, I have to find the link. It's less focused on like pay increases and it's more about leadership. So then it's like an easier sell for your company. But I do have a letter that you can use for your company to pay. So a lot of people will pay for it and then ask for reimbursement. So sometimes I have to write them an email, or we send you an invoice, or they just like get it reimbursed by their company. Is there a link for company options? There is, and I need to try and find it for you, Michelle. So Michelle, can you do me a favor and send me your email? I'm going to send it to you straight after. I'll send it. I'll make sure we've got everyone's emails and I'll send it to you all afterwards. Yeah. I'll let me find it. Samantha. I'm going to go and find it now. But yeah, we do have the template that you just basically can edit and then you just send it to your boss, you know? So that's pretty good too. Good idea. Yeah, I mean, actually, why don't you put your LinkedIn in the chat and I love this. This is a good idea. Let me put also my LinkedIn in the chat. If we're not already, I think I've got a lot of you on LinkedIn, but if I don't, I'm going to try and find that link. I really should have had that ready to go. I'm going to try and find a few, but any other questions while I'm like trying to multitask and find this letter as well? We do have PayPal. If it's not showing up, Andrea, will you just send me an email and I'll send it to you if it's not showing up? It should be, but if there's an error, we will find that and fix it. And yeah, we do have PayPal. It's a really good question. We do have that. Yep. It goes through our website, but we do have the PayPal option. And if it's not there, just send me an email and I'll get that over to you myself personally. Here we go. I think I found the letter. Yay, I have. Okay, cool. Here's the letter to use for your boss. And then here is the, oh no, don't use that link. Hang on. Yeah. And then you can have it reimbursed as well. So the reimbursed option is really good because then you can get the lower price and then they'll just pay you back for it. But any other questions coming up for you, Jasmina or Cassie or Michelle, Natalie or Meenakshi? I don't know. What's coming up for you, Meenakshi? I mean, it's been a couple of years since you graduated, right?
For me, I think a lot of my organization is going through a lot of change. I joined a new role last year that got made redundant, but I'm being offered another option within the organization. So I was really hoping to kind of go to that next level after completing 1 year in this new role. But given the circumstances, I need to figure out, how do I make the best of this option rather than going backwards or stay stagnant? How can I continue to grow? I invested a lot of effort and time within the organization. Organization has also invested a lot in me over the last few years. So how do we maximize that opportunity?
So that's a good point. So one of the things that Meenakshi's just raised, and we didn't plan this, by the way, but this is really good because, like sometimes your employer has invested a lot. So if they've just put you through a short course, or maybe they've put you on a panel at some event or at South by Southwest, or they've I don't know, whatever, they've rolled you out to the board and partners. And if everyone knows you, if you then leave, it's kind of awkward, right? And so actually you can leverage that to your advantage. And also some of you might be in industries where potentially we work with a lot of companies where there's nowhere near 50-50, right? In terms of middle management, let alone senior management. So again, understanding, are you in the minority in terms of how many female identifying leaders they have? Understanding that they're not going to want to lose their statistics. And if you walk out the door, that's a problem for them. So often it's easier to give you a $30,000 pay increase than it is to recruit someone new, the statistics drop. So all of these things. And again, I'm not saying this to be you should, hold a gun to someone's head. And I'm just saying just be smart about it. It's the reality. And also it is better if there are more women in the leadership. They don't want you to leave because as soon as you leave, things get worse because we know decision-making ability of businesses is better when there's diversity, right? So it's just about being smart. If there's a problem if you leave, I'll give you an example. One of my other clients worked for a large multinational beverage company who shall remain nameless, but you can probably guess who it was. And she knew that when she left, she was in an agency and this beverage company was the biggest client. She knew that when she left, the client was going to walk with her. And this is we're talking multiple seven figures here. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, she had a non-compete. And then as soon as that's up, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to pick up the phone, message her on LinkedIn, and there goes all that money. So, it's just also being pragmatic and realistic about this, going they don't want me to leave. So let's have a candid conversation. I only want to do 4 days a week. They're going to have to say yes. We're going to have to figure it out. And again, going to them with options instead of just saying, I only want to do 4 days a week. Okay, that's fine. But what if you said, I've got this plan. Here's how I've scheduled it out. Of course, in the busy time, I will be 5 days a week, but for the rest of the year, this is what I think it could look like. I'll be on the calls. You could just kind of map it out to make it really easy for folks to say yes. So that's a lot about what we talk about in the program too, is rewiring your brain to, as a practice, start to ask for things and have the plan in place already. So it's a lot easier for them to say yes. Or if they hate your plan, they can say, I hate that, make it better. Or I don't mind it, but could we do this instead? At least they're seeing that you're being proactive. You're not just expecting. You're actually coming to the table as well. And yes, I will send you a DM, Michelle. I would love that. Yeah. I'm loving all these questions.
Other reason I'm here, I was interested in the mastermind. I dropped you the email, but then I forgot, probably you forgot, but I'd love to know more about that as well. I thought this is a good option for me to catch you.
This is okay, cool. Let's do it. So let's talk about the mastermind as well. So for people who don't know, I also have a mastermind, which is, I'll pop the link to the chat. So the career leveler is really for people. If you're at a crossroads right now, if there's a big thing about to happen, or if you are kind of really hating life and you want a big change, or if you're really feeling screwed on your pay and you're I need more money immediately, or if you can see a pathway for you to get a bump in the next 3 to 6 months, the career level up is perfect for you. You should 100% join. It's awesome. And then if you like it, you can do the mastermind after. But if you're no, things are good, but I do need some support. I am looking for camaraderie. I do want to do more investing and think about my career consistently. We have the mastermind. So just put the links to that in the chat. Thanks for raising that, Meenakshi. Again, we didn't plan this, but anyway, let's talk about that. So the mastermind, we meet twice a month. So once a month, I do a live group coaching session with everyone. And then once a month, I bring in a guest speaker. So we have had JLo's chief negotiator come in and give us a guest lecture. We have had people come in to give us a guest speech about how to become a paid speaker as a side hustle. We've had financial advisors come in. We're having an AI expert come in next month. So if you want to join for that, that would be awesome. So it's $197 a month. If you love it, you should stay. If you hate it, you can leave. It's like, you know, I want you to be happy. If you're not happy, you should leave. You know, most people, I think maybe 1 or 2 people have left. One, she bought a house, so she was just trying to save money. And the other one, she actually just took some time off to went traveling. But most people actually stay in the mastermind for sort of like 9 to 18 months. We haven't had many people leave because it also becomes like a little family, honestly. And again, it comes back to that piece of like, I don't know about you all, but like sometimes I felt lonely when I was a journalist because I was like, I love my job, but I was like, I'm kind of looking for something else. And I want to talk about money and I want to talk about like retirement funds. And it's a bit nerdy, but I'm kind of interested. And like, what is this side hustle thing? And how do I build a website? Just like different things. And so if you're looking for that, it's kind of a nice group of people. There's someone at TikTok who's in the mastermind. There's someone at PwC. There's someone who's at an engineering firm. There's some people in tech, in SF and in LA. Who else?
Is that global as well?
Graphic designer. What's that?
Is it a global group?
Yeah, it is a global group. Yep. So there's people from Canada, America, the UK. Do we have someone in Europe still? There was someone in Europe. She's the one who went traveling. Asia, Singapore, Australia. Yeah. So, and again, we have a separate Slack channel also for the mastermind too. And so then again, like if I get invited to events or asked to like, you know, I send those opportunities to the mastermind folks as well. And then if there's capacity, obviously we send it to the whole community too. But the mastermind kind of gets access to my Rolodex as well. I'll make introductions for people and things like that too. So that's, listen, I didn't come on here to talk about that, but happy to answer questions about it by all means. It really is focused on professional development, like career, thinking about that, financial, like what does that look like to retire early? Even if you love your work, keep working, but like knowing you can retire early is kind of cool because then you make decisions because you want to, not because you have to. And that's kind of what I want to inch everyone towards in the program. And then we talk a lot about productivity, like hacks, neuroscience, time blocking. We had a time blocking expert from Bain, which is a big consulting firm. No, McKinsey. I can't remember if she was McKinsey or Bain. She came in and spoke to us. This is so random, but so good. We have a session coming up on automating your home. What?
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's like, you know, like Google light bulbs and like as soon as you wake up, you know, like your favorite podcast comes on, like you can automate all that stuff. This is just like blowing my mind. I didn't even know you could do that. But anyway, so we're having a mastermind session on that too. But it's those pillars of like career, finance, and productivity.
You know, I'm curious to know more about it, but I don't want to take away the session.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll email you offline and actually as well. Yeah, I'll email you about it.
Do 10-15 minutes chat quickly whenever you've got time.
Sounds good. And then any other questions like Andrea, Jasmina, Michelle, Natalie, Nora? Hey, Patty, nice to meet you. Samantha. I have an aunt called Patty. I love that name. Any questions or anything that you want to, it's like typically the career level up is a pretty small crew, which is nice. So it's normally sort of like 10 to 20 people max. I think this will be a smaller crew because it's at the end of the year, which is kind of nice because you get more one-on-one time. The start of the year is normally a little bigger. So there's pros and cons to that. But personally, I like the smaller group because then you get more of the one-on-one stuff as well. But yeah, if you want to pop your LinkedIn in the chat, go ahead and do that. And then folks can connect with you. Like I'm a big fan of folks growing their networks. So by all means, pop your LinkedIn in if you want to connect with people on the call. I will circulate the PayPal link and the notes to people who've been on this call. And Michelle, I'm going to email you. Thank you. I would love that. Have I got Michelle's email? If I don't, do you mind to send it to me, Michelle, if I don't already have it? Yeah, I've got it. Cool. And yeah, I'd love to see some of you in the course. And even if I don't, I hope that the framework today has been helpful for you to think about what you really want and getting that clarity, identifying clearly what are those external factors, and then being really honest about the human factors that are at play in your negotiation and how you best need to sort of navigate around that so that you don't put a foot wrong and accidentally blow things up in the wrong way. You know, we want to make sure that we set you up for success so that you don't lose political capital in the process of getting a pay raise. So This has been a pleasure. No worries if you have to drop, totally get it. So happy to meet you all, and look forward to seeing you in the program. And if you've got any questions, just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat too. So you can just email me direct if you have a question. Excuse me. Yeah, awesome. Samantha, I will connect with you. Email's in the chat. So just drop me a note if you've got any questions or any, specifics that you want to know. And yeah, looking forward to the program launching just after Thanksgiving. Thanks, y'all. Take care. Bye.